Welcome to Rapid Fire. I am your host, Wolvie, and today I am here with Dan, who has agreed to come on. We are on episode 5, which should be coming to you, I think, later in March. So by the time you get this, I think it'll be about the 19th. So as we always do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rapid fire some questions at you. There's 15 questions for you to answer as quick as possible. The quickest so far came in episode 4 when Tanya, aka the War Mistress, she did it in 1 minute and 37 seconds. So we'll see if you can beat that. And then obviously we'll go in afterwards and we'll just flesh out everything about you and your journey so far in the wargaming community.
I'm keen.
So let me just, because we're a professional setup, I'm just going to set up a timer on my phone to
of course.
Time how quickly you do this if the clock app opens, which it won't, so this is a good start.
Murphy's Law.
There we go. Right, so let me just get rid of the thing. So your time starts now. How many years have you been in the hobby?
Over a decade.
What game systems do you follow?
Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, mostly.
Reel off your current armies.
Tau, Orcs, Chaos, Space Marines, but Ultramarine Second Company main.
What was your first miniature?
Space Marine Librarian.
What was your first army?
Space Marines.
What model or unit have you enjoyed painting the most?
Mortarian.
What model or unit have you enjoyed painting the least?
Oh, 30 Fire Warriors just gone.
What was the last model you completed?
I just finished a broadside this afternoon.
How much painting time do you get per week?
Upwards of 6 hours. I'm usually pretty good.
What is the current model you're working on? Although you said you just finished one.
I just literally sprayed a whatever that's called, the hammerhead from Tau.
Cool. What is your single favorite thing about the hobby?
The community.
What is your single least favorite thing about the hobby?
The community.
Who or what got you into the hobby?
It was my best friend. He got me into it because his older brother was playing Chaos and he inherited the army.
Cool. What keeps you in the hobby?
The community.
And what is your one hobby target for 2021?
Paint more miniatures than I did for 2020.
Fair. There you go. That was the 15 questions. So, as I said to you before, the quickest time was Tanya, 1 minute 37. You did it in 1 minute 32. So you will go straight to the top of the leaderboard.
Get out of here, Tanya. Get out. That's it.
So yeah, you did that pretty rapid. That's pretty cool.
I was worried I was doing too much. I was like, oh, he doesn't care about the backstory about your best friend's older brother.
That did cost you a couple of seconds, but you know,
I know.
It's worth it because you got there. All right, so expand then on that one. The the older brother inherited, or the younger brother inherited the Chaos Army, and then kind of drew you over to the dark side. Kind of expand on that. How you got, how did he manage it?
Yeah, so went around to his place. We met in like year 7, which is like as soon as you go from like primary school here in Australia, you go to like high school. So I'm not sure what you call that, but it's like your first sort of high school year. We met in like the homeroom. We just kind of hit it off, sit side by side, just because that's how we were allotted alphabetically. Went around his house, and his brother had like the table set up with like in their like lounge room, and like a table set up with all this terrain and stuff. And I was just like, what is that? Oh my god.
What are those?
Yeah, I was just like, oh. And he had like all the Black Legion set up, and he had like the Dreadnought with that weird chain fist that kind of came out, and it was like super heavy. And it was like the heaviest thing. Like, so I had action figures as a kid. Like when I was in, 9, 10 years old or whatever, I had like Batman, I had all those heroes and stuff like that. But I never picked up anything that weighed so much. It was so heavy because it was just like this lead Dreadnought. And I was like, what is this? He's like, oh, this is my older brother's like Warhammer and all that kind of stuff. He's like, I'm starting to like inherit some of it. And I was like, who do these guys fight? And he was like, the Space Marines. And at the time, it was like they only just kind of entered 3rd edition, I think. And so the codex that he had lying around was the old second edition codex, which had the Ultramarines on the front. Well, they had like the Ultramarines codex, and I just looked at that and I was like, oh, okay, blue gold, that's what I'm doing then. Or blue and yellow, that's what I'm doing then. And but you know, picked up the third edition codex, ran to the nearest like retailer of Warhammer, which was like Toy World, I think it was, just like a third party toy shop or whatever. And I just went mental. I bought the Space Marine Librarian, which was made of metal, and then I bought like 15 Valhallans, some Imperial Guard, and just like the Elder Codex at the time. And I just had no idea what I was doing, but I was just like, I just had to get my hands on it, just as quickly as I could.
I think we all did that, like at the start. You know, I was very much the same. I just went in and bought miniatures that I was cool, and it wasn't until I'd been in the hobby for a few months that somebody went, all of this doesn't make an army. This doesn't make sense. What have you bought here? And then that's when I kind of like learned, oh, okay. And then actually started matching things up and realizing that you write a list and paint and all the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I think by the time I finally got everything together and I understood what I knew what I was doing, I think it was probably fourth edition. We just kind of just entered, I think it was the tail end of the third, and we just entered fourth. You have to excuse my memory, but it's the one with the Black Templars on the front.
Yep.
And I remember reading in the codex, it was like, Space Marines are hard as nails. And I was like, well, that's obviously me at 14 years old. That's clearly I'm like that. So clearly that's the kind of people that I want to associate with. And yeah, and from that point on, it's been Space Marines up until the longest time. Like I've probably got 15,000 plus points of Ultramarines back there somewhere in a box. Like it's a lot of Space Marines. And it wasn't until probably, well, I put them away for a long time. So when I graduated high school, like I went and joined the Navy, and I just put all my Space Marines away. I was just like, I've got other things to do. There's other things I want to go and play with. You know, move on to whatever. And a friend of mine came back in 7th edition and was like, have you guys heard of Warhammer? He's like, I just bought this Dark Vengeance box set. And me, my friends, and another one of us who was like a Warhammer Fantasy Battle. He played High Elves in Fantasy Battle. We were like, oh, are we doing this? Are we doing this? And it's become like an arms race ever since. And so when Shadow Strike came out, there was the Black Legion in that, and Dark Imperium. I started Nurgle Army. So Nurgle was my, Deathguard was my second army when the 8th edition box came out. And then, yeah, I got some Black Legion when the Shadow Spears set came out, when they had all the Phobos Marines. And then in 2020, I was like, that's it, I'm going to start a Xeno army. So I painted up, while we're in lockdown, I painted up, 2,000 points of Orcs. I'm yet to have a game with them, but, I spent all last year painting 60 boys, like individually, getting them all ready. And then I was like, second that we open up, like, that's it. I'm going hard on Orcs.
I think a lot of people have done that, and they've kind of gone into lockdown. I went into lockdown with 2 armies. I had Deathguard and Space Wolves. I'm coming out of it with Deathguard, Eldar, and Grey Knights, and I've sold the Space Wolves. So
that's right. They're only Space Wolves. They'll be around forever. Don't worry.
Exactly. And obviously, like when you talk about painting, your stuff's been showcased in some pretty cool areas. Obviously, you're somewhat of a regular on, Warhammer communities, like their little hobby showcase. I think you've been showcased in Japan. I've seen some things there. And you've also, I wouldn't necessarily say it as a model as such, but you've also been recognized by Fox, but not necessarily in a positive way. So what's it like having your stuff kind of scrutinized at the top level? And talk to me about cease and desist.
Yeah, so scrutinized at the top level. The Warhammer guys are so good. So I painted up a board. It's like the old Realm of Battle board that has the hill in the middle. And so I saw that on eBay, and some lady was selling it, and she didn't know what she had. And so I bought it for about $500. When anyone else on eBay, they're going somewhere around like $1,500, $2,000, because it's simply out of print. And so I dove on that straight away. Painted that all up while I was in lockdown and stuff like that, and then posted that, and then that made it onto the hobby show. And I was like, oh, that's so neat. Like, oh my God. And I posted on Instagram. I was like, oh, they liked it. And then like Peachy and baits and all that sort of stuff were in the comments and been like, yeah, we really did like it. It's just like oh my god, like not only did they just like finding it, showcasing it on Twitch, and then like found it on the Instagram and been like, we actually really like that. Like, oh, like weak at the knees, help me please. Like with Fox, Fox owned by Rupert Murdoch here in Australia, he keeps a pretty tight leash on his IP, Futurama being a part of that. It's actually why I'm like wearing the shirt as we speak. Like every time I try and get on camera, I try and like showcase it off. It's Zach Brannigan as Roberto Gillingham. So drew it up, had it ready to go, and then posted up on just like Redbubble, right? Like I thought no one will see that, and then yeah, bang, get a letter and an email saying like cease and desist, like you're encroaching on our IP. And so I'm a law student outside of outside of the hobby. And I was like, nah, I'm pretty sure you don't really have a case, mate, you know? And so I wrote like a letter back, and like, I think you'll find that under Australian law, this is a parody, like you can't stop me, you know, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And I took the initial design down because I was like, okay, just pull the initial design down just in case they really do come at you. But once I did some research and sent a letter back, I was like, nah, stuff you guys, and put the thing back up, and it's been there ever since.
So was it almost, do you almost feel like it was a bit like scare tactics? I guess if someone doesn't have your knowledge, people are going to go, oh no, like no, get rid of it. Like obviously with your knowledge to kind of go, hang on a second. Like
yes, I mean they definitely got me in the opening rounds. So I was like, oh no, I've got a prison. But yeah, then you do a bit of deeper reading and you just like, hang on a minute, like I think I'm not sure about UK law and like US law, but in Australia, yeah, if you're parodying something, like there's nothing they can do because you're taking the mickey out of it. So
yeah, I think
you find just a parody. And
yeah, I think for the United Kingdom and Australia, we have a lot of kind of similar ways in which we do things, and I think that's the case over here. Obviously, if it's a straight blatant rip-off, then it is what it is. But I think if it's an intended parody, or if you're selling it under the name of, say, if they were selling it as a Futurama t-shirt, then that would be where the issue is. But if you're selling it as a blatant parody, then I think it all bets are off up to a certain level.
That's right. So I'm a very pedestrian drawer. Like I did it as a kid, and I was like, oh, I'll get back into it. Try and sort of transfer the skills across the digital. So all of my artwork is not, or has like a parody or a hilarious spin to it. Or at least it tries to. Yeah, and I was just like, I feel like for a little while there I flew too close to the sun for sure.
So you spoke earlier about your favourite miniature that you've painted being Mortarion. As a Deathguard player, I fully endorse this. Assuming then you've still got your whole Deathguard army?
Yeah, still up there. Like,
how do you feel about the 9th edition codex? Obviously, we've not had a chance to play it yet, but
they're very strong. I think they're one of the. I saw a tier list today. Someone had knocked up from. I think they interviewed like 1,200 people in the community, and they put the Deathguard in the S tier, which is like the highest tier, but they were the lowest of the highest tier. And so I think Deathguard are very, very good, but I would rate them higher than where they even place them, because I think that they're very easy to play.
Yeah.
Like there's not like the upper tier was like the Harlequins or something like that. And even myself as like a seasoned player and painter and stuff like that, like they're very tough, but I would say that what makes them so competitive is how easy they are. Like you could be 6 months in the hobby, you could pick up the Deathguard, and then you could start really cleaning up people.
I think they did that with the box set. Was it Dark Imperium box set?
Yeah.
You know, because that's when I started with them, same as you. So yeah, I think they kind of did use them as an introduction army, same as the Space Marines, and kind of they've managed to keep that ease of playing them. They've brought in a bunch of rules so they can be, you know, as deep dive as you want with them, but you can also still put them out the box and they're still tough as nails. And they came into 9th really strong, because in an objectives based game, good luck taking them off, you know.
That's well exactly right. Like you can't, and particularly now, you can't close around them without taking mortal wounds because of their for want of a better term, their plate power. And so I think comparatively, like the upper echelons of the tier system, I would say Harlequins are hard to learn, and and sort of hard to like sort of get good with, whereas Deathguard are very easy to learn, and then obviously takes time to master. And so I'd probably rate them up there and easily one of either because I had them somewhere around like 6 or 7, but I'd say they're probably somewhere in like the top 1 or 2, just because of that. So I would say it'd probably be like Harlequins, Deathguard, and then maybe the Dark Angels.
Yeah, I think a lot. Well, to be fair, I think a lot of people kind of depends on their view on it. Dark Angel is above Deathguard just because of some of the rules. And if you run, is it Deathwing? They all get that transhuman physiology, so that's pretty horrible. So yeah, but they're up there, and for an army that's not really been up there, it's pretty cool to have one up there. So
yeah,
hopefully by the time we get to play in the UK, there won't be all the armies above them.
Just a nerf that week before lockdown ends. You're like, oh god.
I don't doubt that's happening. So it looks like you're painting up some Tau now. They're not probably in the best place in 9th. What's behind that?
Just a change of pace. I just thought I'd try something a little bit different. So I've been trying like a geometric camo. So I'll see if I can get this close to the camera where you can sort of see it.
Yeah.
In the light. So it's sort of just like a green and then sort of a grey spray paint. So I've always been a brush guy, and so I've now started trying to do sprays and stuff like that. Honestly, just out of a can. I don't have an airbrush. It's all. But yeah, just a change of pace. New year, new army. I was like, why not? I've always really liked the look of the Tau, just the big robots. I'm not too particularly fussed about losing. I mean, it swings in roundabouts. If I wanted to win at all costs, then I'd play my Space Marines, or I'd go out and buy 30 Deathwing Terminators or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's I just thought change of pace, why not? So and plus I'm no stranger to losing games. A friend of mine, he's got Dark Elder, Tyranids, like Yanari, and then Craft Worlds. And so for the longest time, he's just a great player. He's one of those people where he just sort of reads between the lines. He's just able to like smash me all the time. So the entirety of 7th edition, I didn't win a single game against him. Like I just got smashed day in, day out. And so putting Tau on the table and getting absolutely smashed, so be it.
Well, if you're having fun, that's the important thing. So what is like the wargaming scene like in Australia? Because it's a little bit different to the UK, because obviously depending on where you're based, there can be miles between you and the next town. Whereas here in the UK, if you try hard enough, within an hour's drive wherever you are, you're going to find a wargaming club or a bunch of people. What's it like for Australia as a whole?
So I live in Melbourne, which is a pretty big city, about 4.5 million people. So it's not too bad. But I relocated here in 2018 and didn't know a soul. But had a pretty, like, all of my friends that I played with on the regular, like the guy who bought the Dark Vengeance box, and my friend is the Tyranny player. They're all up in another city on another state. And so moving down here, I was just like, well, jumped on Facebook. Anybody want a game? Like, yep, no worries. We met at the local GW shop here. And yeah, we played a game, and I was like, is there any clubs or any of that sort of stuff around? And he was like, no. I was like, well, like what Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And so we started up like a Facebook page, and since 2018, we've now got about 170 members.
Wow, that's pretty good.
And so if you want a game against whatever army, there's a mix of people who are like, the win at all costs, people who like run the metas, and that's all they do is they just prep themselves for. There's a 40k tournament called Bladestorm and a 40k tournament called Arc down here, and they're like the Super Bowl for competitive Warhammer in Australia. And you got guys there who just weekend in, weekend out, they're just preparing for that tournament. You got some casual players and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, we used to just roll up to a place called Good Games, just like a community hall, and just play games there pretty much all Saturday, and then knock off, go for a couple of beers afterwards and what have you. So yeah, just build a kind of community around that. So I'm a big advocate of, like, if there's something that you want done, just go out and do it. Like, whether it takes a year, 2 years, however long, like you will eventually build it if you try. So yeah, build the hobby club up, and or like every Saturday, now that we're all in lockdown, or not in lockdown, but now we're out of lockdown, people have like built boards like myself, and So every weekend, there's usually a game going at someone's house or whatever like that. So yeah, it's got a pretty vibrant community, at least in the city that I'm in.
It's good that it's good that you've got that, because I know there are people kind of depending on their location, they're really into it, but they find it hard to get games in, and so it's good if you've got like that massive array of people. Like you say, you've got the people where, all right, bring your best, like we'll have it out, and then you've got people who are a bit more narrative, a bit more fluffy. Having all different kinds of players in a group, I think, is quite important. Just keeps things different, keeps things fresh, plus it challenges you to do different things, rather than
absolutely
taking the same list every week sort of thing.
Yeah, and we run like one weekend a month. We try and run like a 2v2 game, and because it's a good chance for people to pair up against people with different play styles, and so you kind of get that like coaching by osmosis where you might pair up against somebody who is a really good competitive player against somebody who's a little bit more narrative.
Yeah.
And then they kind of rub off on each other a little bit, where the guy's like, well, what I would do if I was, I'd move to that objective point, you want to kind of hold that a little bit, and all that sort of stuff. And then, the competitive player's not too worried about sacrificing, his key unit, as long as he goes out like a blaze of glory and brings down the Carnifex or something like that. It's good kind of like little mix that way. So yeah, it's become quite good.
From my experience, I think you can learn a lot from teaming with somebody about how to then take that army on next time, because you've got the person who you're teaming with going, yeah, well, this unit's really good at screening backfield objectives, and this unit I'm going to zip up the board. So then next time you play that army, you kind of think that unit's really good at holding backfield objectives. That unit's going to zip towards me. So how am I going to combat that? And I think, yeah, it kind of comes with the added element that they're your teammate that time, but the next time you play them, you're going to hopefully picked up something that you can use.
And that's exactly the case with a friend. So a guy down here, he plays orcs, and when I finally built my 2,000 point list, he was like, finally we can have a game against orcs. And he's honestly, he's not a competitive guy, but he's honestly, hand on heart, the best 40k player I've ever seen. Like he runs an orc army, and then he also runs a Khorne army. And every time he tables me. Like I know if I'm playing against him, I'm going to be tabled turn 3. Like without a he's just that good. And so he's like, get your orcs. I'll teach you how to play orcs, and we can war against the world. You and I, like, we'll go the distance. And I'm like, I will at some point. And I just never taken him up on it, but like, I've become such a better player being smashed by that guy, and then also like teaming up against that guy against other stuff. And so
yeah, I think every group has that guy. Funny enough, we've got one in our group, Carl, who did episode 2 of this with me. He's got an orc army that I think at like 2,000 points is unbeaten. I've thrown the worst Deathguard list at him. I've thrown the worst Space Wolves when I had everyone's thrown their worst at him, and he's just gone. And it's not down to orcs being top tier, because nobody thinks that orcs are top tier. However, he's tactical genius, and hopefully he doesn't see this. I'm complimenting too much, but his tactical genius you just kind of go, I've come to play your orcs like the way you played them last time. Now you played them an entirely different way, and you still beat me. And
it's frustrating, but it's like it's honestly a good orc player is something to be in awe of. Like, it's truly watching a good orc player move his units around. It's something truly to marvel, because they're just so good at it. But yeah, someone once said that orcs are underpowered or something like that, and I was just like, uppercut yourself. Like, you're joking.
let me just get my giant sack of dice and just roll 1,000 dice. There's lots of 6s in there.
Like, you're not playing them correctly.
I know. See all those? Yeah, there's lots of dackers in there, so I'm just going to do more. They're pretty damaging when they want to be. So we touched on it earlier, but obviously you've received a lot of feedback about your painting and stuff like that. But do you see yourself as like a recognizable figure in the wargaming community? Like, what's it like receiving so much positive feedback? And do you get negative feedback? Do you get people who are just arses?
Yeah, yes and no. Like, would I see myself as a recognizable figure in the Warhammer community? No. I'm a menace to society, and I should be treated that way. I would say that I'm very grateful for the feedback that I have gotten from like the Warhammer community and like all of their stuff, and like having my stuff recognized. Hopefully they see the memes and know that it comes from a place of like endearment, and like I'm not poking fun at their like product and all that kind of stuff. Is that I truly do love spending my time with Warhammer. In terms of like getting negative feedback, yeah, like you get people who, you know, will send you a message on Instagram or whatever, and they'll have something like 12 or 13 followers or whatever, and they're just like, your work is trash, it shouldn't be up there, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, whatever, man. Like, you know, I'm not going to argue with a complete stranger on the internet about my plastic toys being better than your plastic toys. Like block.
Yeah, I was just, there's obviously that, like you said in the kind of rapid fire round, about your favorite thing about the hobby is the community, but your least favorite thing is also the community, and obviously it's that small section, I think, that, you know,
Yeah,
try and ruin it for people.
I'd say on the whole that the community is a great place to be, and I think we're very lucky to have the community that we kind of do have, and how passionate everybody is and all that sort of stuff. But there are just people who sort of see, and I've said it before on a couple of other streams and stuff like that, the comparison is the theft of joy. Is that if you start comparing like my followers to your followers and my work to your work, you're really overlooking the fact that like you yourself have gone out, built this thing, painted it, and you should be equally as proud of that as anyone else is of their stuff. And I think when people don't get that, a little bit of jealousy sort of seeps in, and yeah, then that's how you start getting like weird messages on Instagram and Twitter telling you that, you know, you should just go and delete your account and, you know, go and play, you know, Star Wars Legion, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, you kind of think that person's almost starved for attention. You know, it's a bit like any attention's good attention, sort of like, you just go, why? Well, like, do you think by telling me to delete my account, I'm just going to go, yeah, all right, you know what? Yeah, delete, goodbye. Maybe my stuff is trash. Oh, no.
Yeah. Joe Blogs 86 told me to delete my account. See everybody later, bye. Okay. But yeah, so I try and occasionally I'll humor them a little bit and be like, what do you mean by that? Like, give me some constructive criticism. You know, well, they're like, oh, and they pretty much just hurl and abuse that, and you're like, no, it's going to be positive, negative, positive feedback. It's the sandwich, and they just, you know, just like, I'll just let you go. Have a good one, pal.
Yeah, those kinds of people don't tend to have the smartest of comebacks. It's kind of like the classic. Yeah. They've got a your mum joke, but they've got nothing to follow it up with when you hit back, and it's kind of like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And
so you know, yeah. So that's pretty annoying. So in terms of then, because you said about one of your hobby targets about painting more miniatures over the next 12 months. What other aspirations have you got for the next 12 months in this hobby?
Next 12 months over this hobby, win a game with Tau Weather Bad would be a nice feather in my cap, I think. If I could win a game with an army that is terrible, that is universally accepted that is currently terrible, like you only have to go like some of the Tau Facebook groups and the Tau, like wherever the Tau players hang out, not on Reddit. You can't stick it, if you're a Tau player, you can't stick your head up on Reddit. They'll shoot it off straight away. If you're a Tau player, this is existing. Yeah, it's universally accepted that Tau probably aren't in the best place currently. And if I could win a game with Tau, I think I'd be very happy with that, because I think that would be a reflection of you as a player. Like, you doing the best you can with a bad thing showcases what you can do, as opposed to like, if I went out and, you know, I tabled somebody with a set of Harlequins, I'd be like, well, am I a good player, or did that army just kind of help me get there? So that would definitely be on the list of stuff to do. Yeah,
I think like being a good player can sometimes trump over a bad army. You look at, I don't know if you watch anything from Tabletop Tactics, for example. You know, you've got Lawrence there who runs Grey Knights. Nobody's running Grey Knights, but he's winning tournaments with them, sort of thing. So, you know, and that's down to him as a player and how he's, you know, dived into the army and learned literally everything and knows when to cast the right power at the right time. I think whilst Tau, and I would probably say Gene Stealer Cult, didn't transfer into ninth particularly well, Tau definitely came off slightly worse. It, you know, if you can win games with those, then yeah, you can definitely say, you know, you can give yourself a little trophy and say, yeah, great player.
Yes, exactly. But going into tournaments, I never shoot for first. My favorite award is the player's player. Like, as I said, like, I'm a big community guy, and so in my first tournament I got second. I got player's player then. In my next tournament, I don't think I even made like the top 5 or the top 10. But I got player's player. And I'm like, well, that's good. Like, that's what it is. Like, you want to be someone that when other people are talking about, be like, oh, you should have a game against Dan because it's a great game. Because whether it's just the banter and all that kind of stuff, like, I think that's what people will remember, is like the narrative stuff and the amount of time, whether, you know, in time getting smashed off the table or winning off the table will kind of like fade. But then like being remembered as a player who people enjoy playing against is, I think, it's a good thing. Whenever you're playing at the shop, people are always keen to see how you're going, or you know, they're always keen to like, oh, is Dan playing? Like, what's going on? Like, I've always found that to be better than sort of a list of trophies on the shelf.
Yeah, different people go in for different accolades. So, you know,
just want to be loved by the masses. Just love me. Just love me.
Love me. So branching away then, because the last question that I always ask people is non-hobby based. It's purely about, what are your hobbies away from this hobby? So much like most people, you put the models down for many years or however long, and then you came back to them. What other hobbies have you got? What else does Dan do?
I have 2 very distinct lives. I try to like is that there's the public perception, like people at work and stuff have no idea about my Warhammer life and stuff like that, and like, but like outside of that, so outside of Warhammer, I am a bit of a gym nut, so I'm trying to increase my deadlift. So I can currently deadlift 220 kilos, not pounds. So trying to get that up. I want to get to 250 by the end of the year. So weightlifting is like a huge thing. I've got a coach, to see him a couple times a week. Boxing, I'm a mad boxing fanatic. I was undefeated when I used to box, so
that's cool.
I went 31-0 as a semi-pro. Was a state champion. Did that. I like writing. I wrote a book. So I wrote a science fiction novel, published that. Yeah, I don't know. I think life is about experiences and about living it. I think you just got to try your hand at everything and just to sort of see whether that sort of, whether you get something out of that. But yeah, so like, yeah, drawing, writing, from the creative side to kind of feed that creative beast, and then that sort of physical side where it's like boxing, weightlifting, stuff like that. So yeah.
I mean, that's
a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, that's 2 very distinct things. You know, one of the guys in Loaded Bolter is, he will never tell anyone that he follows Warhammer whilst he's in the gym, which is his gym. You know, you're not going to find him putting a Space Marine poster on the wall, but we keep teasing them that when his gym's built, we're going to go in there and just start planting Space Marines and change pictures around to just add this flavor. And he's like, no. So
I totally get that. I recently did a drawing. It's a Primaris Marine, like bar curling, just essentially doing a barbell curl, and just like reps a day, keep the heresy away. So this jacked Space Marine just like repping the bar, and I was like, and that's my way of merging the 2 worlds. But like at the boxing gym, I would never tell a soul that I go home and I paint little toy soldiers and, you know,
please, when that picture is complete, please send it to me so that I can find a way to sneak it into the gym.
It's already done. It's on the Instagram, but I'll send it to you.
Oh, fantastic! It's not something I've seen, because I would have definitely put it or found a way to get it in there somehow. just so all of his other friends go, what's this? What's that?
Yeah, exactly. But then the same token that, yeah, when I go to the hobby, the hobby shops and the Warhammer and stuff, like, people don't care about your deadlift. You're like, what's your max reps? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you get you get very few people that you can kind of look at. To be fair, you can kind of look at a person and go, oh, he's interested in weightlifting.
Yeah.
So there is kind of like a general physique style thing.
It's met with a resounding so.
Yeah. So, but what do your Space Marines do? Like,
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Like yeah, right. So
well,
yeah, two very separate lives.
dude, you have been an awesome sport. Obviously, massive time difference between us. Obviously, it's early for me. It's well, not quite late for you, but getting that way. So I appreciate you coming on here and doing this. And if any of you out there, want to come in and try and beat Dan's time of 1 minute and 32 seconds in the rapid fire, then let us know and we'll try and get you guys on. So